All right, man. Here we are again. I'm Craig Blacklock with another episode of The Truth Behind the Smoke. And, man, it is awesome. This is November. We're coming into the holiday season. And check out this backdrop, man. This is awesome. And I'm sitting here with Austin Conrad. What's up, man?
What's up, man? I'm glad to be here. You doing all right?
I bet you're glad to be here.
I'm
So,
glad to be here.
just to cut right to it, man. So, like, how many days you been out?
Well, I've been out about like 27 days, 28
That
days.
long already?
Yeah, it's fine. But it's only been, what, like 3 weeks, really? So it's, I don't know. I can't keep track of my days anymore.
Do you feel like you're free, or do you still feel like you're trying to get used to being free?
Well, I mean, I feel like I'm free, but reality hasn't hit me yet. You know what I mean? I think that it takes a lot of adjusting and getting used to over time after having experienced a long period of time of getting a routine of being in prison. You know, you can't just fall back into a routine after all that. So I'm getting readjusted. Feeling all right, though.
So we'll come back to that. Let's let people know who you are. So tell me about, so where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the city, in Oklahoma City,
Okay.
with my grandparents.
Because you kind of have a country swag to you, too.
Well, see, I was raised by my grandparents and my
Okay.
great-grandparents, so I'm old-fashioned.
Where are they from?
They're from Paul's Valley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So that's
okay,
country?
Yeah.
Paul's Valley,
my
Oklahoma?
papa was a cowboy. You know what I mean? So
Because you kind of got like that Nelly thing going. Like you got a country swag to you, but you're from the city. So I see that in you. So tell me about when you was a kid, when you were young growing up. You grew up, so you kind of talked about bouncing around there. So
Right.
what was life like for you as a kid?
Well, life for me as a kid, really, it was crazy. It was all right, and it wasn't good at the same time. You feel me? So my mom and my dad was in my life for a while. My grandparents raised me. My grandparents took me in. But I moved around to a lot of schools, a lot of houses. We moved a lot, you know, and it was all good neighborhoods, but it'd be the worst schools. So they didn't understand that where we were moving, I'm just going and experiencing all this stuff coming up. But really, my life was okay. It had its ups and downs, you know, but I made it through a lot of struggle, a lot of things in my life.
So did you play sports?
Yeah, well, I played baseball, I played football, I wrestled. I did it all. I was on the tennis team, the track.
What?
Yeah, everything. I was everything. I wanted to do everything.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's pretty much where it took off. And, you know, I played throughout high school and everything. It just,
So did you graduate high school?
no, I didn't graduate high school. I really only finished 11th grade. See, but all the people that raised me, they all died within the 3 years. So my great-grandma gone, my great-grandpa gone, my nana gone, my papa gone, all in a sequence of, like, I was in the last semester of my senior year.
So what is that, 16, 17, 18?
No, it was right before I turned 18.
Okay.
So I was like, I just had to go 1 more month, or no, 3 more months in school and I would have graduated. But see, the last person that died in my family that took care of me, they died away so quick, there was no will. So I didn't get nothing. I got kicked straight to the streets. 4 months away from having my first kid. So I had a baseball scholarship, millions of dollars of baseball to go to the Florida Marlins, everything. It's crazy. And so I got kicked out and I got on the streets and started training to fight and working ends meets.
So tell me, so where was Dad and Mom?
Well, my dad signed his rights away to me when I was a little baby because he didn't want to pay child support or something like that. So he signed his rights away. My mom, she was struggling with an addiction to where she dropped me off with my grandparents one day. I was like 3 years old and I didn't see her again for like 8-9 years.
Okay.
So my grandparents kind of took me in that way, but they just tried to make it seem like everything was normal. You know what I mean? So
Man, grandparents are a beautiful thing, man.
right. But yeah, it's cool. But see, my mom, she overcame all that. Like 10 years later, she's been sober 22 years, holding a job, raising my
Awesome.
sisters. My sisters are top graduates. You know, one's a school teacher now, one's a cosmetologist. So they've come a long way, just like I have. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a family thing right now.
So what about the dude that signed you over? Like, is there any contact with him ever? Is he ever your dad? Like, is he ever?
Oh, I mean, yeah, he's come into my life since I've been 18, but, you know, you give people chances in your life to determine whether they come or go. So I don't really have contact with him like that, but I call still and check up on him because it's still, you know, my dad at the end of the day.
So would you feel like like you're the one doing the right thing by reaching out to him?
I mean, I just feel like as that being my father, you know what I mean? And growing up without him, you know, once you learn who that is, that's still my dad. So I'm gonna make sure he's okay. You know what I mean? Even if it's just one call every few months, I'm gonna make sure he's okay.
So, a lot of people don't realize, and this is something that it's kind of my soapbox, man. Whether you're a guy or a girl, man, dads are important. Moms are, and I get people message me and stuff. Moms are important. I'm not saying they're not. And when you're younger, they're there for the nurturing and all that stuff. But man, dads, when you're a daughter, like my daughter, my job is to show her what a man's supposed to be like.
Right.
And I hope that I can be the man that she'll look for one day. And then with sons, they teach us how to be men.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people I've talked to, and through interventions and in and out of trouble, they don't have a dad. So what? And how old are you now?
I'm 30.
30.
Mm-hmm.
So even now, I can kind of tell in your voice, like it affects people when a parent writes them off or is not in their life, doesn't it?
For sure, yeah. It can affect the whole childhood just because you never know as a kid. It wasn't their fault, so going through childhood, they might think that they were the problem or something, or that leads to doing other stuff because they think that, I don't know. I think no matter what, being a parent, you're supposed to be in your people's lives, even if it's from a distance or even if it's close. I don't think a parent should ever abandon their kids. No matter how they got to be in their life, they should never disappear out of their life.
I agree, man. I agree.
So just whatever you can to do to be in your kid's life, even if you can't be in there fully, do something. Don't let your kids know that you gave up on them. You know
right.
What I mean?
I think there's a lot of power in that, man.
There is.
It's just, if you know where you come from, even if it's not a good situation, man,
right.
Just to know that's who you are. And I think there's some strength in that, in knowing. So how old were you the first time you kind of got in trouble with the law?
Well, really, to be honest, I was never really in trouble growing up. My grandparents raised me right. When I first started getting in trouble, I think was probably one time I started sneaking out in my sophomore year in high school. I started going with the in-crowd. Cause see, my cousin, he was a senior when I already went to the new high school. So I was sneaking out, taking the car. I started smoking weed. And one time I went to this party with my older cousin and we left and we got pulled over. And we got caught, but since I was underage, they called my grandpa on me. So
right.
Everyone else, they got the police, but I got my grandpa calling me, which was way worse. But so around then, and then probably when my people started dying on me, I would kind of start slipping away, but then I would have the thoughts because they raised me. I'd be like, okay, well, I can either do bad in this situation and go do drugs and make an excuse, or I can see that they're watching down for me right now and I'm going to do what they taught me. So I kind of used that as motivation in a positive way to stay on the right mindset. You know what I mean? Probably like 21, 22 is when I really started getting in trouble with the law.
So what was your first situation with the law enforcement?
Well, really, I never been in trouble really a day in my life. And there had been a warrant that come out on me for like $100,000. And the warrant was out for me, but see, I've never been in trouble before. Like me and my kid's mom, my daughter's mom, we would get into arguments. Like we would do it, but then I've never had the police called on me. So I guess she was mad at me, and when she called the police on me, she told them some crazy stuff to where it got a $100,000 warrant out for my arrest, right? So the first time I ever...
So you weren't living with her?
No, I was at my mom's house.
You were bouncing back and
right.
forth. Okay.
It was really the house that my grandparents grew up in. My mom was just in there, and I would stay there from time to time. But this was going on, and so the first time I ever got in trouble really was I was getting in the shower one morning, and when I was in there, I heard banging on the door, but I thought it was my friend because he always does that. I got out the shower, I had a missed call from my friend. So I go up to the door, I have my towel on, and I look out the peephole, and it's the whole SWAT team. So I opened the door, I said, hello. They said, is this Austin? Are you Austin Conrad? I said, yeah. And they just tackled me, ransacked my mom's house, took me in for questioning, and I've never been in trouble a day in my life. So that was really my first experience.
So you went from zero to a CERT team just coming in on you,
yeah,
man.
just thinking it's a normal day.
So what ended up happening with that?
Well, see, that was my first time I got in trouble with the law, and I was being accused of kidnapping and domestic violence. Well, after they talked to me, they realized that they couldn't get me for kidnapping because I didn't do anything. Well, they went to court and they settled for a 1-year sentence, a 1-year probation. Since it's my first time, they lowered it to a misdemeanor. So that's what happened. I was on a year probation, and about after that year probation, I had been in a really bad relationship with my baby mama, and so the past started repeating itself, and the police got called. And once you're in the system, you're in the system. You know what I mean? And the more you're in the system, the harder it is for them to really believe you. Even if it could be the truth, people are not going to look at you the same.
So that's strong what you just said. So I've talked to a lot of people through different things I've done in life, and most of the time, guys that have been in your situation, they don't have that attitude. They look at it as though I'm huge on, I'll tell you every day of the week, the system is broke. The system is stupid. I hate the system. But that said, you're right. Like, they see so many people every day,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to pick whose heart's right, no matter what they look like, no matter what their priors are. That's all they see all day long is just people messing up. So it's a different view from you to say, you know, they didn't know me. You're not putting it on them. You're
Right.
like, you're just a dude on paper, and they're running through the system.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's fair.
Right.
I think the system is horrible. But so the attitude you have is, especially being 27 days out.
Yeah.
And how long were you in?
I was in 6 years.
And you're still not negative or a pessimist.
Not trying to be that, because I believe you put out positive, you get positive back. If you put out negative, you'll get negative back. So even if I'm in a negative situation and I stay positive in that negative situation, then something good's going to come out of it.
So is this 6 year run, these 6 calendars, was that the first time you ever went in, or did you go in before that 6 years?
Well, see, the whole 6 years, I did 4 years, and I got out for like 6 months, and I went right back for another 2.5 years.
Oh, okay.
So, but when I had got out, I didn't have no probation. I had nothing. It was a clean slate. I did 4 years. I got out, and in a blink of an eye, I'm already back in, and then I stayed in for another 2.5 years. You know what I mean? So it's been really crazy.
So did you, as the Bible says, return to your vomit? Did you go back to that same girl, that same situation, catch the same?
I didn't, but it was kind of like after doing 4 years, after like never being in trouble and just going straight to prison, of really being a good kid growing up, it's kind of just like I got out and I didn't, because COVID was still going on, and I just got out to a world where I'm a little older, my grandparents ain't here, so everything was just, I kind of panicked.
Right.
And it's not that I was doing anything bad. I was just coming out to the world from that and not having a place to go and just figuring it out for myself. But still, I'm in the system. So while you're figuring your life out, that doesn't mean you're not going to come across bumps and roads. But being in the system, you come across that one bump or that one road, you don't get another bump in the road. You know what I mean? You can make one little mistake and it be over with. But they don't understand that that's just somebody trying to get used to a situation. The 6 years I was in prison, I had to get used to that over time. I can't just go straight to prison and get used to that. You know what I mean? So it's the same way in the world when people are incarcerated. They just expect us to act like everything's normal. That, you know what I mean? And it's not normal. It's not. It's something I have to get used to, and everyone has to get used to it. So I don't like the system either, just because I've seen how unjust and how unfair it can really be for people that don't even deserve that type of life. You know what I mean?
So where when you went in the first time, where did you go? When you actually, so you got booked into Oklahoma City County?
Oklahoma County Jail. Yeah, that's the only county I've ever been in. 5 times.
And then when they, what they call it, pulling chains, or got on the bus, the pickle. Some people call it the pickle or whatever, the green bus.
The green lizard.
The green lizard.
Yeah.
So where did you go the very first time that you stepped off the bus? What institution was it?
I went to Just Done.
Okay.
Yeah, Just Done. Went to Granite.
Okay.
From Granite, I went to...
So are those medium, maximum, minimum?
Well, Just Done was a minimum. I went to Granite, which was a work center.
Okay.
Then I went to Union City Community Correctional Center.
Okay.
And then I went to Howard McLeod Discharged. Came right back. Went to Lawton Behind the Fence.
Okay.
Then I went to Bowley. Then I went back to Union City, and I was there for a while, but I got in a little trouble, so they had shipped me to Veneta.
Right,
with a week
and that's
left.
where
Yeah.
Okay, so I met you before you did your first 4?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I met you before you did any of your 6 calendars.
Yeah.
So I met you, where was that, Atoka, or where was that? Atoka.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My professional
and that was your first pro fight.
Mm-hmm. Co-main event.
And I remember I didn't know who you were or anything, but I'm kind of old school, and I remember I was in the locker room taping hands for some of my fighters.
Right.
And I remember seeing some people some dudes, and they got your stuff.
Right.
I didn't know whose stuff it was.
Mm-hmm.
But then outside the locker room door, I heard this ruckus break out, and I heard you getting loud and about to go ballistic. And then I heard these two, and one of these guys, he kind of walks around on his tiptoes, and he's a pretty boy, I remember. And I basically, what two people do, especially if I don't know them, because I didn't know you.
Right.
It ain't my business, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I saw people were automatically going against you,
right.
believing them, because they're like the homecoming king looking dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And, man, I knew they stole your stuff. Yeah. And so this is how we met. And so I was there, and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I don't remember if there was a police there or who was there. But there was a bunch
guard.
Was it?
Yeah, he was. And
there was a bunch of people there. So kind of talk about, I fronted him.
Right.
I was like, no, I vouched for you.
Right, I know.
And I was like, no, they stole his stuff. And then, and I remember them saying, well, where is it at? Blah, blah, blah. Or, and I was like, look, I don't care if it's on the roof, in the trash, in a car. I watched them take his stuff. And so how'd that play out?
Well, really how it started was because I was fighting my rival gym that night, and they had put them next to me in the hotel the night before at weigh-in. So I was next door to them, right? So all night, trying to fight me, calling the phone, writing on the window, banging on my wall all night. But see, they knew that they were feeding me the wrong person, Trey Parks, because I really wanted to fight JR and Braden Smith. But anyway, I told them that it's over with. Well, the next day, they're playing around at lock-ins, when we got to go early, and I just let everybody know that this was the dude I'm going to knock out for the night. So when I got in there and I knocked him out for the night, I ran over to the corner to JR and Braden and said I wanted to fight both of them. Well, see, during that, they got mad and they took my stuff that I dressed out in before I got in the cage. So then I remember that's when you came in because I was like, man, they got my stuff, and the security guard was saying that they didn't, and that's when you said, yeah, they did, and I said, someone go get my stuff before I go in there and get it, and that's when you stepped in and started telling them, hey, he's not lying.
Right.
They're just, no one believed me at the time.
And they kind of disrespected me that night, too, and I'm
both of them.
Yeah, and so I was, making references about me being a snitch and an old man. I was like, man. So we got a little roughed up right there in the crowd, and then they found your stuff.
Yeah, they went and got it.
Yeah. So, but that's how I first saw you, because I had a guy making a pro debut then. I had some amateurs on that card, and I think I talked to you. It was like, hey man, casual stuff.
Right.
And I didn't know about your gym situation, training situation, but you come up and thank me. Even back then, you was like, hey man, no one really ever sticks up for me. I appreciate that. That took some nuts, and you were like really a nice kid. How old were you then?
Well, that would be, I'm 30 now, and that was in 2017. So that's that.
Do the math. So anyway, you were like, and then it started a conversation, and then I said, hey man, if I can ever help you or do anything, and then you told me, he's like, man, I need that, and you were like, you showed me something tonight. You didn't have to do that. And then you're like, I'm going to be up there. I'm going to try to be up there for like 3 weeks. And you're like, I'm not even playing. Well, and then me doing this for so long, I was like, okay. I was like, cool, man. I'd love to have you. I don't want to steal you from nobody's gym. But people say stuff all the time, right?
Yep.
Then I didn't hear from you. And so I was like, it's another one of those guys, and I never saw you anymore, though, really. So how long after that fight did you get hemmed up?
Oh, like 2 months. 2 months after that fight, 3 months.
Because we talked for a little while, and I knew you were going to try to come.
Yeah,
and we were laying all this groundwork for you to come train.
Yep, and it was over with. Because, see, I had broken my hand, too. So I had a full body cast. I went to jail. Found out I'm not getting out of jail. It's over with. So that's pretty much how I lost contact with everyone for a while. But I always knew that I'm gonna hit you up. I'm gonna make it here eventually, no matter how hard it was.
So it's weird to talk about me, but so what about that situation? Because you went around to a lot of gyms. And I'm not for gym jumping because you never have that home. You know what I'm saying? And so, but you have bounced around to a lot of gyms. So what made you? This is for me mainly. Like, what made you, in one situation, what made you say, man, I want to go train with that coach?
Well, it's really, from going from gym to gym and thinking you have a home and you don't, and after all that experience you have, it's just when people will show you what they're about, you know what I mean? And so not only the fighters that you've brought up, not only that you had my back when I didn't have a gym there to have my back when I should have, just in...
Did you have somebody there? I mean, don't have to mention names if you don't want, but was there somebody in your corner?
Yeah, just someone that has showed up the day of fights, you know what I mean? But it's okay. It's the fact that I know that I want to better my future. Like, I know that I've always wanted to be a fighter. I'm going to be the champion of the world. Like, really, I am, because that's what I've set my mind to, and I've worked hard for so long. I've made so many sacrifices. Every little thing, I always made sure I made it to training. No matter where it was or how I had to be, I did for so long, and all I did was show up, and I got really good at it. So this is, like, my life depends on this, so I would feel like I'm going to have to make decisions in life, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to be a billion-dollar fighter, then every decision I make should be worth $1 billion to me. So I had to reconsider, like, I'm just coming out of prison and all this, but I feel like you're the best fit for me, because how you talk about your fighting style is how I've always carried my fighting style, even when people told me it's wrong, you know what I mean? And so I just think we have that connection, and I think it's the right place at the right time, and everything's happened to where I feel like this is how it's supposed to be.
So what was worse? What was the most? I mean, if you take away the time, what was harder time? Your first time in or your second time?
Well, I mean, I don't really determine my first time to my second time in, because it was really just like it never happened because it was so short, But also, going in is always going to be hard because you don't know what to expect. You know what I mean? I've never been to it. Now, coming back, going through the whole process again, even though I was back to back, I know what to expect.
So what was it like? So how, if somebody, because you hear people are always drawn. They got
Right.
First 48, and then even a show I watch when I'm on the road, Lockup,
Right.
and all those things. Like, people are drawn to that. But so being a young guy, 22-ish, I think.
Yeah.
What's it? Let's go back to county. So what's that day like when they come in and you're getting ready to get on a bus? What's that like? What's that feeling? What do you go through?
Well, every place you go is meant to break you down. So being in county and stressing about your case and going through it, it's a lot of stress, and it's a lot for someone taking, especially being locked in the cell, barely being fed. All that comes to where after you sign, if you're gonna go do time, it's really a lot of it's a lot of pressure lifted off of you, because now you don't have to worry about what's gonna happen in my next court date, how much time I'm gonna get. Once you're ready to go, and they say you're pulling chain to go to A&R, then it's really a good feeling, to be honest, because
Really?
It's just like you get to leave that place. But then when you get to the next place, then you start getting broke down by that place. And then you're ready to go to the next place, which would be the yard. You know what I mean? So every place is... But going through it the first time and then coming back the second time is definitely easier the second time, because I know what to expect. I know how to act. When you first go to prison, you never been in trouble before. You gotta learn stuff the hard way. You know what I mean? And
So I've heard a lot of people tell me that they'd rather be in prison than county.
yeah, for sure.
So explain that. Like, people are like, what are you talking about? You're like,
Well,
why?
Well, like county is like...
Because people see county as just jail.
Okay.
And then they see prison like, oh my God, prison's prison.
Well, it would be like this. Okay, so you go to jail, right? And you're in jail. So at Oklahoma County, you're behind the cell door 24/7. You don't get out. Maybe once a day for an hour, and that's if you're lucky. You get 3 meals a day, and that's it. You have a phone in there, but you can only talk on the phone so much, like the wall phone, and you're just in the cell with 3 guys. You don't get to go walk around outside. You don't get to see outside. You have to stay locked up when they tell you 24/7. Now, when you get to the yard, determining on what place you go, it's way better, even if it's in higher security, because you get to walk out of your cell. You get to have go outside, and most cases at lower security and stuff, you get to go out, have a job, or at visits, or just whatever. When you're in county, you're just in county. So yard is better. You can order canteen. You can get your food, everything. In county is just you're there waiting in a box for your court date and see what happens with you. You don't get to interact. You don't get to do nothing.
So I've also heard that county is a little crazier and a little more messed up, because you got people that have never been in. I've heard that personalities are more on stage, because you got people coming down from prisons to come to county court and state court. You got people that you may have a guy that's doing 20 years coming back. I mean, this is crazy. From a case 5 years ago to go to court, well, he's already been in prison for years. Like, I heard that the conglomeration in county is also what makes it so volatile.
I mean, it can. It's just depending on who you are, you know. But at the end of the day, any place is jail, the yard, it's crazy. And you're going to have all crazy people. So really going to jail is just, it's not so much the inmates or anything, it's the process in county. We got to get processed in, then you got to go to this place, then you got to have these LAs, and then everything changes in county, so you might wake up with a different person, and you got to get used to that personality, but you're locked in at the same time. You're not getting to go walk around.
So everything's just a chaos.
It's just a process, because then you got court dates, and then you got, it's just just how they do things. I think it's crazy on the yard, but county is just a process.
So
much.
you process, is the right word, processed out of county, and the first place you went.
Well, you go to A&R in Lexington. That's where every single person goes, no matter what. They go there to get you got to get it's like you can be there for
like enrolled in the Department of
pretty
Corrections?
much. It's like you got to go through the process to get to the yard.
So that's like the in-processing place,
right? But that's where everybody goes. You have to go there before you can go anywhere
before
else.
they put you in any other state penitentiary.
But that's
or
when
facility.
They see like you can have anyone from maximum security to lower security. That's when they process you, like figure out how much security points you have, where they're going to send you to. Are you going to go to a higher or lower or wherever? And then you stay there and you start getting used to being in the cell, you know, and then after that you just go straight to the
So is that because of it's kind of like the first major place? Is that more chaotic or calm than county?
Calm. Because it's like when you're at county, you're ready to go to the yard, and then when you're at A&R, then you're out of county. Like county is no more. You don't got to think about no more. You're going to the yard. So being at A&R really is everyone's just ready to be there, because that's the step before you get to yard. So when you're waiting 3 months, 4 months after you've already had your court date and you're ready to leave county, then once you're there, you know the next step is the yard. So it takes a lot of.
Sorry to interrupt the podcast, but we got a shout out to Morris Landscaping out of Oklahoma City and the surrounding area. Morris Landscaping, Esteban wants to give a shout out to all their commercial properties and customers. We appreciate Morris jumping in here, landscaping and helping Esteban for this podcast and helping Austin getting ready for this upcoming fight. 405-627-9139 and 405-361-3330. Morris Landscaping. So if you need stuff cut, trimmed, you know, like your bushes trimmed and that kind of stuff, they're the ones to call. Hit them up. Now back to the podcast. So as a young guy, what's going through your head? Like, are you just taking stuff in, or what? I mean, how do you adapt to that? Like, what's your first 24 hours like? Like, what goes through your head?
Like leaving county or the first?
No, your first time like in Lexington or whatever.
Okay,
like,
well, look, really my first experience is I was nervous. You know what I mean? You're not gonna not be nervous, and especially when you don't know nothing. So you're in the holding tank, and so my thing is I just kind of watch people and see how they act. See who's been here more, who hasn't, see what's going down, but really just paying attention and staying quiet and just minding your business is the main thing I learned, because you can't just go into a place thinking you know something when you really don't, because that's dangerous in anything. Like you went to a gym, if you ran a gym and thought that you knew how to fight and taught someone the wrong way, that could cost them their life.
Right.
So that's how I just had to take it in.
Not that we want to promote going in, but if some young dude is listening to this and, you know, however, on the inside or whatever, like, what's the best thing to do? Like, stick to yourself. Like me, I have to assume, I have no idea. I would just be like to myself. Right. I'd be quiet to myself. You know, that old saying, if you don't want none, don't look for some.
Right.
And I mean, how do you make your first contact or your first relationship? Like like, how do you start to fit in? How's that happen?
Well, fake get exposed always. So one thing I say is just always keep it real and don't ever try to be somebody you're not, because that's the easiest thing for someone to do in prison is pretend they can be anything they want in prison. You know what I mean? So just be yourself and stay to yourself. Stay quiet. Now, don't just stay quiet where everyone wants to figure you out. Just go in, let people know who you are, and that's what it is. And just mind your business. Stay humble, because character really, you know, even in prison as evil places, no, it's really your character. It's how you carry yourself. It's how you're going to be treated. You know what I mean? And if that's just how it goes. And so it's just be yourself, be humble, be you.
So what a lot of people want to, you know, what's the old saying? Inquiring minds want to know. So like, without going in, I know that these conversations got to be somewhat withheld, but so tell me some of the things that you went through or you'll never forget, things that people, they may think happens only in the movies, but it's real life. What
No,
are
it's
some
real.
major
I've seen the craziest things, but with me personally, I've been stabbed 7 times. I've been jumped by like 30 people at one time, numerous times back to back. I've been lifeless, carried back to my cell, bleeding out. I've went through some things in there.
what causes, like what causes that?
Well, it could a lot of factors. One, not being affiliated, having money, not being affiliated. People can hate, or sometimes it does happen to other people, like deaths or just whatever the case may be. I mean, it could be a drug addict that needed drugs, and just stuff like that. But really, it's if you don't mind your business, you don't stay to yourself, then they're gonna put you in your bit. That's how it should be everywhere in the world too. Just everyone should just be focused on themselves and focusing more on doing good instead of focusing on somebody else's wrongs and judging them. They should just be focused on themselves and do good. So
What's maybe not to yourself, but what's like maybe the worst things that you, because I've talked to some people and they're like, even if something's going on and it's wrong, or they got the wrong guy, or it's going too far, everybody's like, it ain't your business.
it's not. That's the rules.
And I've heard some crazy stories, like literally like in the yard somebody got their head kicked off. And I won't tell what affiliation that was or anything, but like what's something that, because what I'm going to get into is two things, dealing with that, coming into the fight world, making you mentally stronger, and then like we talk about combat veterans and stuff,
Right.
but because of the life and the death and the traumatic experiences, but I can see, because I've heard Lawton at times is like a gladiator school.
Yeah.
I've heard Lawton's can be pretty rough.
Can be.
So what are some things? What's maybe some things that you may never shake that you saw? What's something that is real time that people like? Oh, that's only in the movies, or I wonder if that, like, what's something that
It's like
could
just like screams of people that are being tortured. You know what I mean, or just stuff like that, and hearing things you don't want to hear, and seeing things you really can't speak on, but kind of the idea of what I'm saying is just, there's things that some things can be explained, but just know that the things that have happened is, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, some of the things that I had to go through and witness, and there's some things that I can't talk about, but at the same time just know that it's real. I'm talking about, from people getting raped, from people getting tortured, from people getting murdered, and it's all real in prison, and it's craziness, and it's something that if you're out here in this world, say you live at a house, right, and your neighbor, you don't like your neighbor, you don't have nothing in common, you don't want to be around your neighbor, you can move, right? But then you go to a place like this with evilness and goodness mixed, and innocence and craziness and weirdness, all this, but it's all locked in one place where you cannot get away from. So you have to deal with that in your own, that waking up to all different type of characteristics and stuff that you wouldn't even be around in the world. You have no choice but to live with that every day. So you just have to adapt with that. But coming with that, so some things happen that you know what I mean, you have no control over. So that's why I know it's mind my business. You hear me? Stay humble and just keep doing my thing.
So how do you, because I think it's just like, in some avenues of my life, I've seen people die, maybe was involved in that situation, and those things don't go away.
Right.
So, the military, they have VA and we have different things, but none of it's like camaraderie, none of it's like having that person, a support group when you get out. I remember my Master Sergeant, Happy Veterans Day, Master Sergeant Michael Beck, one of the greatest men I've ever met. And if anybody out here listening to this knows how to get a hold of Michael Beck, he was with the 1st Infantry Division. Last I knew, lived in Joliet, Illinois, and his wife is Pam Beck. I'm really hoping Master Sergeant Beck hasn't passed, but I've for years tried to get a hold of you. Man, happy veteran. He was born on Veterans Day.
Oh, yeah?
And he is, man, the most incredible man, one of the top 5 I've ever met. But happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there, and especially you, Matt Sergeant Beck. But like, this is like a man's man and he, man, mentored me, and we spent time together, and I just remember thinking, like a 20-some-year-old, you know, I was just like, man, I want to be like this. Like, he hardly moved his mouth a lot of times when he talked, and he just, everything was direct and like he could be talking about how pretty these trees are, and you're like, oh hell yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was intense. You're like, oh yeah, man, these are pretty trees. And I remember, I just never thought it would happen. They were building his retirement home, and I remember his wife told me when I called, and she's like, yeah, but let me tell you some things real fast. And she said an accident happened with Mike, and I mean, this dude lied about his age. He was, I may be wrong, was like 16 and a half or 17 in Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, walking point with a 12-gauge shotgun. So this dude was he was born, some people are just born to do certain things. He was born on Veterans Day to go be a war hero.
That makes sense.
And he said he never, he never had PTSD. He was just one of those guys where you just knew, like, if something bad came to his mind, he just swallowed it. Yeah. And then drove on, you know, Fido, forget it and drive on. And so she said they were putting in a septic tank for their new house, and something happened and it caved in on him. He was walking through the yard and it was like a sinkhole.
Ooh. And
so it reminded him, like, and I guess he was there for hours. I guess it just like sucked in around him.
Oh, wow.
And that, after being out for 20 some years,
it's crazy.
That's when he started having flashbacks.
Oh yeah.
And so because over there was like sinkholes, and they dig holes and put like pugo sticks or punji sticks where you fall down on them, and I guess it just, something happened, him being out there for so long. He just went back to Vietnam mentally, and so that's when he started having the severe PTSD stuff.
That's real.
And so he was good all those years, you know. And what I'm getting at is that she said, you know, believe it or not, strong ass, nothing can hurt me, Master Sergeant Beck, started going to a group of other veterans and talking. And like, even to this day, I just can't imagine Master Sergeant Beck sitting in a room full of old veterans and talking. Like, he's not that guy. Like, he's the guy, you know? Like, he's leading that room. He's not in that room for help. So it was a huge eye-opener for me in that when I'm dealing with people, helping with interventions or helping people like yourself, like, you got to have people. You know, you got to have people to talk to. So what's your advice? Because there is not a VA for inmates who've seen crazy things. Like, so what have you done, and what are you currently doing to process and try to not keep that stuff coming through your head?
Well, see, one thing I know is no matter what you do in prison, you don't know how it's going to affect you till you're out. You know what I mean? Just like you don't know how good your training is going to do until you get in the cage and you test it. So I knew that I have went through some things that wasn't normal and seen some things. So I had to get out first. You know what I mean? And then I started realizing some of the triggers I have, or some of the moments I might have, like PTSD flashbacks, or what makes
So
them.
do you feel like you maybe have experienced some of that?
Yeah, for sure. I know I have. Yeah.
So since you've been out, even though you're free, there's some, that's a proper term actually. So there's some things that have triggered weird responses with you?
I mean, yeah, just the sense of like walking outside, seeing a police officer hiding my phone, or like, or hearing a noise or a siren or something, and just take me back to a moment that I don't want to remember. You know what I mean? And then it's kind of crazy because I've never really had moments like that till when I started realizing it's like, when you're really in that moment, you really think you're there, you know? And I've heard that before, and I'm like, okay, is that real? No, it's real. And then, so when you're aware of something, you can figure it out. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm more like still studying myself, seeing, okay, well, how do I act here? Or what triggers me to act this way? So I'm starting to learn why, so I can take care of it. But one thing is self-evaluation has been helping me a lot. Like really admitting, like, hey, you're crazy, or this is really affecting you. You know, you got to keep it real with yourself. You can't just act like it's not there. So once I start self-evaluating myself, I'm starting to like Instead of doing this, I'll go do that, which in a more positive way. If I'm feeling down, I'm going to get out. If I think something, I'm going to try to think a different way. It's just really changing your mindset too. Because no matter what you've been through, there's no one's had it worse or no one's had it better. You know, everyone's went through some shit. So,
and that's something that, like, it really tells me when I start talking to somebody, I'm always trying to get a read. I'm always reading people.
right.
And it's crazy because people will be like, I'll be like, man, Austin, man, you don't understand. I have this back pain, man. It's the worst feeling ever. And you're like, oh, bro, you have no idea. My back pain, like, well, and what's crazy is it's all relevant.
Right.
Your experiences to you are traumatic to you, you know? And then to this other person, theirs are real and theirs are traumatic too to them. Even if they're not as bad as yours,
Right.
to that person, that's the worst thing they've ever experienced.
Exactly.
And I don't think people really understand when people are talking, it's not a competition.
Right.
You
not
know?
at all.
And I know of somebody recently that it kind of went south. He actually sat in my barber chair, and he had a relative that was driving, and they're out celebrating. He's going to get married, and his brother, this family member had done a lot of time, and they left the place they were drinking because he just kept talking, and even in the vehicle, just kept talking like prison stuff.
Yeah.
And kept talking about gang stuff, and kept talking about, and this dude that I met was like, dude, shut up. That's not you anymore.
Right. Exactly.
And so a couple things about this conversation. So one, I'll stop there. This guy was like, look, that's not who you are. You're about to get married. Quit talking about that stuff. That nobody cares about that out here. Leave it. So how strong is the things that you say? How strong do you think it is, the things that come out of your own mouth?
The tongue is a powerful weapon, you hear me? And I believe that that is right, though, is if you do have a traumatic experiences, you got to get past that traumatic experience. So if prison was a traumatic experience for me, I can't keep living in that traumatic experiences. I got to learn why I had that traumatic experiences, how I'm having it, and figure it out and move forward. I think that if you talk less about it and just focus on the present or what your new goals are, because just people adapt to that life for so long. If they have to be there, you know, for a long time, that's their life.
Right.
So coming out here, they might talk about it right. Like the first day I got out compared to now, I might have talked a little more about it then. But once you readjust to society and you start realizing, okay, that is my past. I don't have to go back there no more. But if you keep talking about it like it is still like in your life, then you're
present.
You're gonna attract that. You know
Right.
what I mean? And that's real. You really will attract that stuff. That's why words. The man that says he can and the man that says he can are both usually right. You know what I mean? So.
And even the word, you know, it talks about the most powerful thing is the spoken word.
Right.
Nothing really happens until you start speaking it on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not true with all things, but so then the next step was he just wouldn't shut up. And
Right.
so to shorten the story, you know, he'd asked this guy to be the best man at his wedding. He's trying to show his family member love and a good time. And I mean, I saw the pictures. This dude stabs his family member in the neck while they're driving. And they're fighting in the cab of this vehicle, and they get pulled over, and this guy's trying to slash him and everything else in the truck. These other people in the truck take off running. This dude tries to drive home, bleeds out, passes out, wakes up for some reason. I think it's God. His dad was calling him. They life flight him, and he was just in my barber chair, and he's still recovering from this. And so we were talking, and I was letting him vent, you know, and talk, and he was kind of maybe surprised I was interested in it. He showed me pictures. The truck is totaled, but it's just, you can tell. I mean, he was getting cut up. He got stabbed in the neck. But I asked him, I said, man, with your relative starting this new life, and like, why was he on that?
Right.
Why was he? And I was like, I said, do you think he wanted to go back? Do you think he was afraid of being out? And I said, did he seem like the type that would stab a family member like that in the neck? And of course, this guy's still dealing with it. He's like, I don't know. But so tell me, like, what would cause, because I don't see that with you.
Right.
Like, what causes somebody to really want to stay in that role on the outside?
Well, like, one thing is some people don't have a good in out here. You know what I mean? They're homeless. They're used to eating out of a trash can or whatever. So then they go to prison, to a place where they have a place to sleep, at least, you know what I mean? Get shoes, have meals during the day. They know that. So one thing that could lead to it is, one, people might mess up so much in prison so they don't get out. But then if they do end up getting out, they might just play that role because they don't want to be out here. They want to go back to that. That's a good life to them compared to others, you know? And then there's some people that they were born and raised into it, and they just got, over the time, that's their normal. This ain't normal.
So do you think that, so what, the term institutionalized. So do you, in your opinion, feel like that's a certain time period, or do you feel like it's a mindset, or both?
It could be a little bit both. I mean, there's institutionalized is like, you just do something so many times, so many repetitive, you know what I mean? It just, you get institutionalized.
Right.
Just like a certain time when your light goes off, or a certain time to go eat, or what. That's, you still have them moments. I think that'll always be instilled in some people, but it also depends on what kind of experience you have, how long you're in prison, you know what I mean? Everyone's different. So just like for me and my wife, though, I think we both, that's what we've been really dealing with, is just trying to get normal, you know what I mean? Because nothing's never normal, but like I said, once you're aware of how prison has affected you, and yeah, you can be institutionalized, like going to sleep at a certain time, but then when you start realizing that, that's when it becomes a mind frame, because when you're aware of something, you can take care of it.
So do you think that people use that as an excuse to go back? Or do you think they're just unaware that that's who they are now?
Could be both, but I don't think it's an excuse to go back. I think it's real, like, people can really, the system, I mean, you can go into the system when you're 18 and come out when you're 40, 45, and the system just messed up your whole life. You don't know how to live, you don't know how to get a job, you don't know anything. So like I said, everyone's different, it just depends on everyone, but when people say they're institutionalized, and sometimes I believe it, you know? Like, you go 20 years never having a job, now you're out in this world out of nowhere, and you got to get up and go to work every day. Now that you're institutionalized, I'm not used to that yet. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's the realistic behind it.
So how did you keep positive, and what gave you hope inside?
Well, really, you know, one is because I know that I've worked hard in my life for my future, you know what I mean, with fighting and just staying that way as a person. So one thing about me is I know that I didn't have enough time where I can still keep chasing my dreams, you know. And then I went to such a dark place, to be honest. Like, my wife, she saved my life. She really did. Like, I had a point in my life where I was hopeless, not motivated, didn't care about nothing.
While you were on the inside.
While I was on the inside, right, you know. And for a lot of times in prison, I was strung out on drugs just to, you know what I mean?
Because I didn't think you really used anything before you went in, did you?
Well, see, I didn't. But when my daughter's mom, she's the one that really got me. I didn't even do no drugs really till I was like, besides weed, I didn't touch drugs till I was 21. You know what I mean? And then once that started happening, in prison, it's kind of a thing. Like, I would never do it out here. I think it's trash. But in certain situations, you do it just to do your time. And that's what I did a lot. But, you know, anyone can use that as an excuse. I just know that my wife has saved my life so much, and I'm so blessed to have her, because she's really my Y factor now. She gave me my motivation for everything. And
so you went through you kept telling me you went through a lot of classes. Like,
I did, yeah.
So is that available to everybody?
I mean, yeah, the classes are available everywhere. It's like some places it's hard to get into them than other places, you know. But
so what made you, because, man, you have like a deck of cards. Like, you did a bunch. Like,
yeah.
What are some of the things you did on your own?
Well, like, I did all the things I did on my own. I did the drug treatment program, the SAT class. That takes about 6 months, but it's learning your triggers and how to deal with relapse. And I also got my CPR certification from American Red Cross. I got my I know how to use Narcan and stuff, or if someone's overdosing, I know how to handle it the proper way. I'm licensed for that. Got my anger management. I mean, I just took all the classes that.
So anger management is something I've heard it's like court appointed. Was that court appointed?
No, none of it was court appointed.
You just did it.
I did everything, yeah, because like I went to a work center, but they wouldn't let me have a job. Really, I don't know why, but the whole time I was there, I just stayed positive doing my time, even though it was hard.
So you can be at a work center and not work?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay.
But I completed all the classes. Everything I could do, I always maintained my time. Even though I was having bad moments, or if I wasn't doing everything right, I at least made sure I was doing something right. You know what I mean? So
that's got to be huge.
It is. At the end of it, it's hard during it, but once it's done and you have the certificates and everything is over with, it really shows you what completing something feels like, you know?
So it's no secret. There's phones on the inside, right? And then I remember the first time I heard your voice. You were like, "Hey, coach," and you talk like Kramer on Seinfeld. You're excited and you're talking fast. You're like, "Hey, this is Conrad," and I know that I told you one time I was going to be up there in like 3 weeks to a month. Like what? I guess you were within 6 months of getting out, probably, or something like that.
Yeah.
So, how much time went by from when you said you were coming? Was it like 4.5 years to the time you called me?
Yeah, it was like probably about 4.5 years.
So what kept? I got people across town that say they're going to come train and commit to me.
Right.
That can't.
Right.
You spent 4 years in a hole, 4.5 years in a hole, and as soon as you saw the time coming close, you called me. What made that happen?
Well, like, okay, so when you get arrested, they always say nothing matters besides the first day you go to jail and the day you leave. So with everything I've been doing, training for fighting, when I'm gonna be the champ, I'm really trying to be the best through everything. The last moment I had going in was I was about to come train in Tulsa with you, and so holding on to that, I know I'm a fighter. I have my experience. I know that's what I'm gonna be in life. So I held on to that every day. Okay, when it's time, I'm gonna call a coach. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna be out there because I feel like it's the best time, the best place. Everything that happened fell in line at the right time. Nothing ever goes right. You know what I mean? And then when you work hard for something over time and things start going right that you can't explain, that's from your hard work you just sacrificed. And so I know that at this point in my life, things are actually starting to go right for me in ways I can't explain. Everything's just falling in. Like my wife I got married to, being out here at the right training camp at the right time, just everything is happening. And I believe that this is the right track I'm on because it's happening, and you know, when it's not supposed to be.
So a lot of people would maybe call that divinity or God. What's your view on that?
Well, I definitely believe, number one, yes, it is God. But I've also believed that over time I have manifested my own destiny. Since day one, I have wanted this. I've wanted to be on the next 10 years. At the beginning of the 10 years, you want to be at the end of the 10 years. So you imagine, what am I going to be in 10 years? Well, I always held on to that. I'm the same person I was.
So wouldn't most people call that hope? That's your hope? That's what you held on to?
I mean, I held on to it, hope, but it's also I gave my life to it. It's like you don't have a plan B because it gets in the way of plan A. You know what I mean? So I dedicated my life to no matter what, I'm going to be a successful fighter. That's my number one thing. I can be successful in anything after that. But I'm going to work hard because this is my life I'm choosing, and I'm dedicating myself to fighting. So that's why I take it so serious, because every time we talk about fighting, it's my life. So I fight for my life.
So do you agree? It's something I say all the time. Do you agree? I think I just made a post on my Facebook about something, that fighting, a real fighter, isn't something you do. It's who you are. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes this life didn't choose me. I mean, this life chose me. I didn't choose it. You know what I mean? So fighting a real fighter, like you said, is people just don't do that. You know what I mean? Because 95% of people that step in that cage aren't fighters to me. You know what I mean? 95% of them. I don't care who you are. So when you fight a real fighter, because like me, when I go in that cage, I feel like either you're going to have to kill me or I'm going to win this fight. Because I'm not coming up to fight. I'm not coming up to get tapped down. I'm coming to fight for my life. And I'm ready to die for my life and take care of my kids and my wife and everything. So that's what I go into the cage like.
So one of the things that I do in seminars and things, and people seem to crave a lot when I go speak, is like the mental aspect.
Right.
I think one of the things that helped me when I was fighting was I rodeoed for a long time. I fought bulls. And you may fight 200 or 300 bulls and it's just no big deal. And then one night you walk in there and your ass is scared. Like fear comes and goes, and doubt. There's times I didn't feel good, or I was injured and hurt and bruised up. And people have asked me in interviews, they're like, man, aren't you afraid? I'm like, man, if anybody ever tells you you're not afraid when you're standing in front of 1,800 pounds that's pissed off, they're either lying to you or they're mentally ill, or both. And but I think with the things I've done in civilian sector, security and ops, things like that, and then some fights experience, I think that I used being in front. I'm like, what can you do to me that 1,800 pounds or 1,200 pounds can't do? Like, what are you gonna do? Hit me? Okay. Do you think that you can draw from? You think it'll help you? Like maybe the one thing prison did. Do you think that there's anybody gonna stand in front of you in a cage that's that's going to be more fearful than what you went through on the inside?
Well,
or is it different to you?
I mean, to me, it's like, yeah, prison gave me those situations where you better survive or you don't. You know what I mean? So I think that experience toughened me up, more mentally mature, you know, ready to fight. But also, as a fighter, I stay humble. I think that anybody can get knocked out at any minute of any second of any day if you're not on point, right? You can be training for 100 years, be training for a year, hit you with one right punch, it's over with. So I never go into a fight cocky or anything. I go into a fight knowing that if I just stay focused on myself, you know what I mean? Tunnel vision, really. Anything could be happening, but in that moment, I know that it's time to fight. You know what I mean? That's my mindset towards it.
So have you been afraid in your amateur? Your amateur career, you had not a really good amateur career, but if people know, I mean, Oklahoma fighting, like you just fought anybody.
Right. Well,
you was like, I'll fight anybody, and you fought guys. I think 2 of them have been to the UFC.
Yeah.
You know, and not to make excuses for your losses, but that's part not a good coach. Like I would have never let you take those fights if you were in my camp that young. I'd be like, look, okay, let's do this. But did you ever have moments prior to now where fear kind of took you over in a fight or before?
Well, yeah, for sure. Because look, I feel like experience is everything. So fighting everyone, I didn't just fight everyone. I fought the toughest guys. You know what I mean? So I wanted the experiences. I wanted experience. So now that I have the experiences, I've been tapped out, I've been choked, I've been knocked out, I've been times where I didn't make weight and I get to fight, or I've been in the gym that it didn't work out, or just whatever. I've had all those experiences now to where I know what it takes to win because I've lost so many times in every different way. So
I hear a lot. I see a lot. I mean, I've been over 20 years in this. So, you know, and some will listen, some won't ever listen. I tell amateurs all the time, look, we got to go get a bunch of amateur fights. Mm-hmm. You got to go through so many things. And I have people have 3 or 4 amateur fights. Mm-hmm. Whether they win them all, lose a couple, they want to go pro.
Right.
And in my opinion, and I'm not well liked for my opinions, but there's a lot of paid amateurs, especially in the Midwest, mm-hmm. right? Just because of the population. You go to LA area, Chicago, Detroit, New Jersey, New York, Miami, there's places where there's just so many people that it's a lot harder to do that.
Right.
How valuable is your amateur career, the things you learn? I tell everybody, like, I just had a girl fighter fight last night. She is a beast. She is awesome. I love this girl. She hits like a dude. She trains as good or better than any fighter I've had in 20-some years. And kudos to the girl that beat her last night. But on any day in the gym, I'd give you my gym if that girl could beat her in my gym.
Right.
But this girl just adrenaline overloaded. Mm-hmm. And it's the second time it's happened to her. How valuable, and this is for the people watching this, you know, maybe they'll listen to you instead of me or their coach, right?
Right.
How valuable is it to go in there and get in those wars? And yeah, nobody wants to lose.
Right.
But as an amateur,
mm-hmm.
how important are those losses going to be to you? Those ass beatings, chokes out, knocked out, now that you're 1-0 as a pro moving forward?
I'm grateful for him. Now, you know what I mean? Because look, you could just become a pro fighter, right? Never have an amateur fight or anything. So you go in, you get knocked out for the first time. You don't know how to recover from that, and it's not going to go away. You have so much experience. That's why when I'm training too, I don't just train to knock somebody out. I put myself in bad positions because I want to train to get out of bad positions. So the more experience you have compared to 3 fights to having 6 fights to having 12 fights, experience is everything. So if you have those experience in the right time frame, then you can have the perfect moment. You can go pro at the right time because you're going to know when the right time is, you know what I mean? But you don't know after having 2 amateur fights and going pro, you didn't have enough experience to realize what you're even getting yourself into. You know what I mean? I don't think so. You got to learn how it feels after you lose a big fight.
So now if you take your amateur career
mm-hmm.
and you take your prison experience
mm-hmm.
and let's say you start to feel maybe weigh-ins. It
mm-hmm.
may be when I'm wrapping your hands.
Mm-hmm.
It may be, you know, I tell everybody and they just don't understand. When they shut that cage door, it's different. So now being older, mature,
right.
incarcerated out, amateur getting your ass beat up, how are you going to be able to deal with fear? Like what's something, like do you think that fear could hit you?
Well, like, okay, so talking about experience. Now, I've had my amateur fights where I did have the adrenaline done, but I did learn that cardio equals
Did
confidence.
you lose those fights with adrenaline dump?
Yep, I did.
So adrenaline dumping and cardio are two different things. Like you can be, and I don't make any excuses. My fighters will tell you. In fact, some of them leave my gym because they don't want the truth. They go where somebody's going to lie to them. Honestly,
that's not right. Yeah.
No, but she is a cardio monster right now. It just takes her over.
Right.
So you've experienced that?
Yeah, especially with your first fight. You know what I mean? You don't know what it is till you experience it for yourself. I can tell you about it all day, but if you never know what that feels like, you're not gonna know.
So do you think you'll feel that again ever?
No, well, like I don't think I'll feel that. The fear, as in the build up to the fight, being there, getting my hands wrapped, butterflies in my stomach, everyone's watching while I'm walking out. Yeah, that type of shakiness getting you. But no, once you step in that cage, it's over with. And I've learned that you can use that adrenaline dump. If you don't dump your adrenaline right off the way, you can use it as like an advantage type
Absolutely.
Of stuff. You know what I mean? You can.
There's military war
right.
story heroes that got shot 10 times and drugged 10 of their buddies. And then there's other times where a guy gets shot one time, adrenaline fear take him over, and he can't do anything. So it is about how you control it, right?
It's how you act in that moment. Like once it hits you, you can either stay calm and realize it's hitting you, or you can panic.
So how would you know if it was hitting you now?
Well, I think I'm just aware of it now, because now that it's hit me a couple times where I didn't know, I know how to handle myself. I know how to walk out to the cage. I know that when they ring that bell, not to just go all the way at it. You wanna just stay calm. You know what I mean? It's just, I know how to handle it now. It's like the stamina in a video game. You know what I mean? I can control it now. So.
Yeah, and that's really huge. I teach my fighters, man. We do repetition in the gym. How you're gonna walk out, what you're gonna do in between rounds.
That's all I've ever done.
And I've had them say, or I'm looking at them, I'm this close to them, and I'm like, and I can tell they're like looking right through my head. They're looking at the opponent through the back of my skull. They're not really listening. Or I've had them say, my legs feel like they're cement, or I can't breathe, coach, or I hear you, but I can't do anything you're saying to do.
Right.
Like, you've been through that. So for somebody that, if you could help somebody right now get over that, like, how do you know, like, what are you going to do in your next fight when you're like, okay, because this will be your first fight in a long time coming up.
Right.
And it could happen. Right? Because you know how to ride a bike because you learned how to ride a bike. But then you get back on the bike, and so how now are you going to be like, okay, what are you going to do? What pulls you out of the adrenaline dump and the fear?
Well, what it is life experiences that I've had now, to where I haven't dealt with my fear. I face my fear now, and once you face your fear, once you go put yourself in a dangerous situation and come out of it, like, experience is everything. So now that I've had enough experience, I know that in my heart that when I step in that cage, either you're going to kill me or I'm going to walk out of the cage.
Right.
And that's how I take it. And fear is all out the window. Like I said, you get the butter. Once I step in that cage and they lock them doors, it's over with. It's either I'm going to kill you or you're going to kill me. That's my mindset. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to walk out that cage until I win or you kill me. And so I've faced my fears so much to where it kind of just got out of me. You know what I mean? I always have the better.
So I like it. I know what you're saying. I was just telling, man, this girl was crying last night, and she just was like in a bad spot. She should have won this fight, and I said, you just got to do more of this. It's tough when somebody feels like they failed. They've worked their ass off for months. They've done, literally, she does everything right, and then you choke. But you got to go back and see if you choke again, right? You got to go back and
because you can learn from that.
I fell through the ice. I almost drowned. Guess what? I got to throw you back on the icy pond and see if you fall through again, right? Like, do you agree with that?
Exactly,
kind of?
Yeah. No, I agree with it.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people, they don't know until they know.
And that's amateur too. Like, as amateur, you can lose, but guess what? You can go right back.
It doesn't count.
Yeah,
it does. But
ego,
trust.
You're learning through experience, and that's the best experience you can have as an amateur.
Hey everyone, sorry for interrupting the podcast. Just want to do a shout out here to Vicious Fighter, Vicious Athlete at viciousathlete.com. Don't just participate, dominate in all your combative sports. Now back to the show. Okay, so we're about to get to where kind of how we got to here. So you were in 4.5 years?
Yeah, 4 years, got out 6 months.
So your last stint was 2 years or something?
Yeah, 2.5.
Okay. So in that 2.5 years, were you training on the inside? Were you had fighting? You knew when you got out you were going to fight.
Right.
When you were in this last time, did you already know then you were going to call me again, or you did?
That was in the plans, but whatever you plan ain't gonna go exactly how you plan it. So you got to take it day one at a time, you know. So there, I knew that I had the connection, the resource when the time was right, but I knew that I wasn't never gonna stop. Now, when I first went in, I started doing my push-ups and how I'd work out like burpees or something, you know, sprawls, doing shadow boxing. But then over time, people learn you're a fighter, and then you know what, they want to test the fighter, so I'm going around fighting everybody, and then you learn to have you can use your
so you got some sparring on the inside,
some tough sparring, you hear me? But it's all experience, you know, still training, but also I always, you know, on the inside we have our own gloves, make punching bags.
So tell me about that. So I saw a video, you had somebody holding shower shoes as pads.
Yeah, shower shoes, as pads, or you can go get a trash bag and put sand in it or water in it and use that as weights, or kick it with punching bags, or use your mattress as a full body bag. I don't know, it's crazy, but I just.
So what do you got to say to people? They've got a full gym, everything you need, and all you got to do is show up, and they don't. And you on the inside trying to figure out a way to train every day to be a fighter when you get out. What do you say to the people that always got excuses on the outside?
Well, I'll say this: champions will do today what contenders won't do tomorrow. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you make excuses, then that's what it is. Because with me, I can work with anything. You know, I can work with shower shoes. So someone that has their own stuff or anything, that's a blessing, really, that a lot of people don't get. And so if you aren't appreciative of your blessings, you know, they'll definitely get taken away. So I think that anything's an excuse.
So doing this for 20-some years, and you had some fighting before you went in.
Right.
How aggravating is it to have some dude don't know how to do pads hold shower shoes?
I mean, it gets aggravating, but they're learning. What I don't like is when someone's gonna try to fight me knowing that I know how to fight and they don't know how to fight at all. It kind of makes me mad because just the toughest, biggest dudes, and they really don't know how to fight. They've never been trained, so I just.
But you know, I tell my fighters I have for years, you're gonna come across as amateur and pro people that just. I call it monkey fight or windmill or go crazy crackhead fighting, and you can't fight that fight.
Right.
And it's real easy to get sucked into somebody that's fighting like that, just going, and you forget, I got all this skill.
I know.
And so you just start wailing back. So
that's true.
Maybe that 2.5-year training camp could pay off when you get in the ring, because there's always times in people's fights and careers where you're like, you go back and be like, Coach, man, that third round, I was just fighting desperate. I got totally out of my normal fight realm. I quit working my processes, and I just went banging because he was banging. Do you think that all these crazy-ass folks inside doing that will help you stay within your crosswalk and be a better fighter?
It will, because, you know, you always got to trust the technique. But second, for real. But it's also like there's no referees in prison. Like, if you're fighting for your life. You know what I mean? And that's the experience. I'm getting in the cage with someone that there's a ref to stop it if it has to, but I've been in situations where there ain't nobody gonna stop that. You know what I mean? You're fighting for your life. So
they don't just stop when you tap out?
No.
You just tap out?
Nah, sometimes I wish it was that easy, you hear me?
So, all right, so before we get to kind of how you got to be here, if somebody on the inside gets to see this and they think they want to fight when they come out, right? What are some things that they could maybe get their hands on? Tell them how to what they could do equipment wise, so to kind of do that.
Well, I learned in prison that your own muscle weight is the best weights to have. You know what I mean? So doing your push-ups or whatever you can always get books in prison. That's one thing I know about prison is you can find the books you need to find. So really, just learning the right moves and stretching and
books for reading or books for weights and stuff.
Well, books for like own body weight, like doing stuff. Yeah, as your own. Use your own body weight.
Okay. I'm big on that. I love that. That's true. Everybody thinks you gotta be swole and lift 60-pound dumbbells. But I tell people, because I've seen people come out, and I remember one time I went to Pomona Beach and in Muscle Beach in California, and man, I was seeing dudes that were lean, you know, not yoked. And I mean guys in their 50s and 60s, like one-arm pull-ups. And guys like and I'm sure some of these were probably incarcerated dudes. I could tell they were blasting stuff. Like one guy got his legs wrapped around another guy standing there, and this guy leaning back, and this guy doing crunches and coming up. And this guy got his hands like this on the beach. And every time the guy come up, boom, boom.
Yeah.
These dudes were like, they all look like they've been the best training camps in the UFC. And they just out there just their body weight.
Yeah. And I was saying.
And that's true athletic strength.
Yeah, it is.
So using your body weight, and then what about like equipment? Like you said, like mattresses to kick?
I mean,
or?
yeah, just like you're going to figure it out, eventually if you want it bad enough. So I just use my shower shoes as pads, or if, someone had to get a couple pillows, or some cotton out, you just stuff that in a pillowcase and use that as a body bag, or use your mattress to throw kicks on, or a combination. Just anything you want to work with, really, it's really all up to you. Just figure it out. But a lot of my own muscle weight, so like if I'm doing push-up or punches, I'm doing my own muscle weight like that, or my push-ups or anything I'm doing, I'm just using my own body weight. And then if you get into using, I don't even would lift big weights. If I did have weights, I would just use more reps, just lightweight.
Absolutely, you're speaking my language.
So that's really how I've always just carried myself.
I love it. I heard they took a lot of places. I was just talking to somebody who'd been in a long time. He said a lot of big places, they took all the weights out.
Yeah, a lot of them. One, it's dangerous, for at certain places. But yeah, just like where I was at a work center, and there was just a couple dumbbells and a bench press.
So we're going to get into, the my nonprofit, a Fighter's Chance Foundation, a fighterschance.org. Go to it, help support. It's part of what has brought Austin to here right now today, sitting out here and talking about a fight career and all that. And we help just from youth to grown-ass men that need help and that really want to make a difference in themselves and other people. A lot of people talk about, I want this, that, but they're not doing the action. How important is it to stay busy when you're on the inside, the physical part, not just the mental? I think the mental part, you need to be reading, right? Like you kept doing things to make yourself better, because that's a prideful thing. Right. Like every time you got a certificate, that had to make you feel better.
For sure.
And I remember you talking to me on the phone like, Coach, man, look, I got all the, and like you were just like telling me, just turning the page, all the things you've done. Even grown-ass men have to feel good about themselves, sure. Right?
Well, you got to have a routine. As a grown-ass man, just when especially in prison, you'll never get time like that again, where you don't have to worry. You really don't have to worry about nothing, like as in paying your bills, or is the electric gonna be on, or making it this job. In prison, you got all the time in the world to do whatever you want. So it depends on how you use that time is how you're gonna come out. You can use it negative, do drugs, be negative, do bad things, get in trouble, or you can use that time wisely and study yourself and always stay busy. Get a routine, get used to a routine, physical and mental. Just have it all around, just building your character. That's what prison is. If you use it to that aspect, is just build your character.
I think it'd be a negative, because here's the thing. So they said, I've heard they took the weights away because they're dangerous. And they took the weights away because they don't want the inmates getting bigger, stronger, faster than the guards or the police, whatever you want to call them. I think that's a crock of crap. Okay. Because personally, I think if an inmate's going to go get somebody, they're going to find a way.
Right.
So I think and I actually have a podcast coming up where we're taking, he's a psychologist in the Department of Corrections here in Oklahoma. And we're going to talk about the things that help keep mental health and help keep people in the violence down, all these things. I mean, he sat in my barber chair. It was awesome. Yeah. So I think it's bad to not have ways for these people to vent. I think, okay, so if let's say you and I, we go make some money and you want to donate volleyball nets, truckloads of sand, and volleyballs to all the places you ever went. And the prison's like, no, they're going to fight over the volleyball and somebody's going to hang somebody in the volleyball net. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, they're going to find something to fight about anyway.
Right.
And they're going to find some way to use something else to cause harm. Do you think that there's a lack of positive ways to vent on the inside?
Oh, yeah, for sure, because it's just pretty much like they don't want to get the weights because they don't want to be the ones that egged it on, like they don't want to be held responsible for it. Because I promise you, so many of my friends have lost their lives and due to the system of how they're being treated, but the system will cover it up and say, oh, they hung themselves or they overdosed. No, they died because y'all weren't doing your jobs. Even just being in some of the cells in the county, they got mold from years and years blowing out the vents, and we're locked in there 24/7, and they want to make it like nothing's wrong. They don't give us medical attention when needed. I had a friend that was dying of a cyst coming out of his mouth. Like, it was horrible. They wouldn't do nothing for him. So
some people would say, oh, that's inhumane. And some people say, well,
it is inhumane.
You should. And other people would be like, well, you shouldn't go to prison.
Right. Well, you know what? Some people, Anybody can go to jail. Anybody can go to prison. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're rich. I don't care if you're on the street. I don't care who you. I don't care if you are the preacher's daughter. You hear me? Anybody can go to jail or prison at any given time. There's a lot of innocent, good people that are locked away right now, and that's true.
But I think even if we're really going to be, and I just heard our governor is really working right now to, for maybe the first time ever in Oklahoma history, I've heard it say from Pastor Dixie, I've heard it from a lot of people that I trust, that they're really trying to rehabilitate and help inmates now, and doing different programs. And I'm all for that. Again, that's what a Fighter's Chance Foundation is. And so I've also taken a lot of flack because people are like, so a gentleman, older gentleman, wanted to donate, and his comment was, yeah, I want to start donating. I'm getting older, to nonprofits and helping people. And his comment was, once he learned about the nonprofit, a Fighter's Chance Foundation, he's like, I'm not giving no money to no inmates. I'm not giving no money to no people who've been in prison. He goes, let them become successful, and then I might donate to them. Okay. That doesn't make any, it just really pissed me off.
I mean, like I said, fake get exposed eventually, and that's someone's character. So at the end of the day, I would rather them not help me so I can help myself better, because people judge too much. People don't know who anybody is unless you sit down and you have a conversation with that person. Just like me, you see tattoos on my face. You see I just got out of prison for domestics or whatever the case may be. You want to go ahead and just judge me. That doesn't mean that I'm not intelligent. That doesn't mean that I'm not a good person, because look, good people do bad things and bad people do good things. But just because you make a couple mistakes doesn't mean you're a bad person. That don't mean that I'm out here running the streets doing the most. No, I'm actually a husband. I got kids, and I'm working hard for my dreams, and I'm staying humbled about it.
Do you believe that people coming out can change?
I know they can. It's all the mindset, but it's also like, you can't put somebody in prison for 30 years, right? 40 years. I've seen it. And then let them get out one day and just throw them to a society that's just going to judge them. Oh, you've been in 40 years. You're a piece of shit. We're not going to help you. No, that's not how it should be. I think people need to start focusing on the right things, because people will judge somebody of everything they're doing wrong, but they won't sit there and tell them everything they're doing right.
But I also know, because I've ridden through town with you 11 o'clock at night, you're still aware of what's going on.
For sure.
You're still looking like, in some way, people talk about profiling or is bad, but you're still looking at folks and judging them when you see them until they prove you wrong too, in a way, right?
I mean, in a way, you just can't trust nobody nowadays. You know what I mean? And I don't really focus on anybody, but being in prison, I've always happened to be aware of your surroundings. That's something that would always be distilled in me. Like, I will always be around in my surroundings, and it's not me judging somebody. It's the fact that I don't know them, because we can love everybody. That doesn't mean we have to trust them. So I don't really judge somebody. I take my time to get to know them, but I don't really go get to know people. You know what I mean? I don't have friends. I don't go hang out, but I have acquaintances that I trust within my circle, that have over time, I've got to know them as a person. But anybody can be who they want to be. Anybody can play as the person behind closed doors. But being in prison, living with all them people, what they're like behind closed doors. And fake get exposed. Real will always be real, but real will expose fake in a heartbeat. So sometimes it just be like that.
So you hit me up, and through people helping me, and then we got you a place to live, and we kind of got you an apartment fixed up, threw some stuff in there. Even my mom was all involved in that, What did that mean to you? Because you talked about it, like, Coach, you're gonna have me a place to live, right? You're gonna, and I knew being on the inside, but on the outside, I got people ghosting me. People, like, it's crickets. Like, we had people going to donate money. We had people going to help with cars. We had people going to donate with jobs, and they didn't. And so I'm stressing on the outside. You're stressing on the inside. Then Pastor Dixie, Wings of Freedom. And I knew at first, like, I could tell, your first day, your first week, you're like, man, this is another system. I'm on the outside, but I'm not free. I want my freedom. Now 3 weeks. You've been in your house 3 weeks?
No, over 3 weeks. Yeah,
First of all, explain to the people, like, you coming out first day wasn't typical. Most people don't get that. Right. And I'm not praising. I don't need to be praised or recognized. It took the help of a lot of people. But it also took, I can't, and I met a friend, because me trying to help you, I met a mentor. I think as men, we all got to have mentors.
Right, for sure.
Iron sharpens iron. And I met a real man, like Pastor Dixie.
For sure.
He's nice, And he has that kind of pastor, Mr. Rogers, hey, man, it's good to see. But I know he's real.
He's real, yes.
And so you got sent to Veneta, right? Which is a little poo hole up there. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because growing up, Veneta, Oklahoma was a crazy place, crazy farm. And I went in there. I rolled in there to get you. And all of us did. John, the camera guy over there. What's up, John? Advising us from the back of the camera. Smartest guy in the room at all times.
I believe it.
So I saw it, and it's like a ghost town up there. I thought that's where you were.
Right.
That's a crazy place.
They're crazy.
So tell us about the night before and the morning you knew you were getting out. So what was going on?
I mean, really, I was just ready. I was really nervous because I was getting married the next day. And really just having the connection with my wife, I was just excited to get out and see her. But on top of everything else, I knew I had an idea of what was coming to me, like you picking me up and actually having my back and getting me and my wife married and putting me in a program. Really, you put me in a good spot. Like, I trusted you, and I don't trust a lot of people, and you set me up in a good spot, which I know that's real.
So you come walking, I went there, I got you a change of clothes,
yeah,
right? And I knew that, and I was just guessing, but I was like, man, the biggest thing is he got to have a good pair of tennis shoes.
Yeah.
What did it feel like to put on some really good tennis shoes?
I was ready for it. I've been walking in Gilligan's the whole time. It felt really good. It felt good just to be in the parking lot. You know what I mean? And put on those nice clothes and have my wife in the car, and then people that held me. And
she wasn't your wife yet. We're
right.
gonna get to that. So I walk up, I give you clothes. You change right out there in the parking lot, and you just kept saying, "Get me out of here, Coach. Just get me out of here.
Yeah.
I want to be out of this parking lot. I want to be off this property." Was it kind of surreal? Did it sink in? Like, I'm about to get in this truck, John's truck actually, and we're about to drive out of here. Like, what was that? Because you were like an animal that just got out of a cage. I mean, I'm not joking. Like, you were just ready to go somewhere besides there.
They said never look back once you walk out that door. So once I got to leave that parking lot, I got to put everything behind me. You know what I mean? I went through a lot.
You were saying that in the back of the truck. You said, I ain't looking back.
Yeah, I'm not looking back.
So is that something that they talk like? Is that like a superstition, or is that like
it can be, but I mean, I believe in it. I mean, I always go for it.
Because you said, man, they always say don't look back or you're coming back.
Yeah, because last time I looked back and I came
You did?
back.
Really?
Yeah. Because they told me don't do it, and I remember I looked. So this time I said, I'm not doing it now.
So then, first place we went.
To the diner.
We went and ate breakfast.
Yeah.
In Con. So just so everybody knows, so I knew about the little tattoos on the face, and then I did not know, and I was thinking about being happy, hugging his neck, and the first thing I think come out of my mouth was some bad words, because he got a tattoo right across his eye right there, and I was like, only thing I could think of is sponsors, because you 30 with a baby face, like, you're a good looking dude, right? And then I'm like, I don't know, I said some crazy stuff. Like, it took all the love out of the situation, because I was just like, what? He's like, yeah, don't worry about it, Coach. I'm still me. I'm like, so for like the first morning, I was like, my ass was burning. But, so what's funny is, we go to a place, I rodeoed forever.
Yeah.
I went back to an old place of mine, where Clint McSpadden's from, and Veneta, Oklahoma. And we went to a diner there, and I mean, this is cowboy rural Oklahoma, cowboys, farmers, good wholesome old people, right? And we go in this cafe with this dude, right? So I don't know if I had my hat on or not. I think I had my cowboy hat on stuff. And then here's my sidekick, right?
Yeah,
so
tattoos and all.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And what was real food like?
Real food was amazing. It hurt my stomach though at first because eating the fake food for so long, the real food is more appreciative.
Right.
I loved it. I loved just being in the restaurant. But like I said, at first everything was like a dream to me. Nothing felt real. It's just now starting to feel real, So I was really just waiting to wake up from a dream because I never had hot food served in front of me, whatever I wanted in a long time.
And I was thinking he's gonna order like bacon and all. Man, this dude, what did you go straight to?
I went to the the grilled honey buns
and twice
rolls.
baked cooked cinnamon rolls.
Pancakes,
just not nothing. He just went for everything was sweet and sugar.
Sweets.
Yeah.
I like sweets.
Yeah.
I'm a sweets man.
So we left there, and where'd we go?
Straight to the courthouse. Got
Yeah.
my marriage certificate.
Right. And so like 2 weeks before he's ready to get out, he's like, Coach, this is his go-to line. I just one more thing. Just one more thing, Coach. You just gotta help me with one more thing. And these one more things keep getting bigger. it's like it goes from Volkswagen to Ferrari. He's like, okay, so here's how it's gonna go, right? And I'm like, what do you mean? You ain't telling me how it's gonna go. Like, I'm out here busting my ass to get things to go. No, look, just this little thing. Like, you gotta stop and pick up my wife. I'm like, what? And I was like, you ain't married? He's like, no, but see, that's the deal. Like, he's trying to sell me on this car. He's like, that's the deal. The day I get out, I'm gonna go get married. Man, if you could have seen my face,
yeah.
I was like, this kid has no idea. I've got housing set up. I got all this program set. Now I got to go back to Wings of Freedom, back to Pastor, and I don't roll like him. Right. So I didn't go in and say, okay, just one more little thing.
Yeah.
and honestly, you know, Pastor Dixie, I mean, like, they bumped you up. Like, they did me huge. Like, I got so much love and respect for that guy. The women in the, like, so anyway, so we did it. She comes into Tulsa early. I swing by and pick her up early in the morning. We get you, and, you know, she's a high school. You knew her in high school, I guess?
Yeah, since we were in high school.
So then we go to the courthouse, get the marriage license.
Yeah.
And helped with that because it's all, like, foreign, right?
Yeah.
And then we go to Wings of Freedom.
Yeah. Then we do the
orientation.
Yeah.
And I could tell, because again, I was getting aggravated a little bit, because you just came out of a very organized, structured process, being in prison, and I could tell by your body language, your tone, like you weren't like now. You're going through this orientation, like, okay, yeah, well, like I get that, but like this is what. So, but now, after 3 weeks, what's changed? Like, now it seems like you're okay with the process. You're okay with Pastor Dixie. You're okay with what they demand of you. So what changed?
I mean, well, first of all, getting out of prison to now is a lot has changed. You know, a lot can happen in one day. You feel me? But it's really everything I've been through. I prayed for stuff. Like, I prayed for everything to work out one day, you know, no matter what. And now that I have my emotions where I just get out and I have to get married and eat bad food or be depressed or whatever it is, you have to have those moments to be okay with those moments. So after these last 3.5 weeks, like, me and my wife have got our relationship to where we're getting an understanding of each other. You know what I mean? And then this program is actually something that's saving my life. It's helping me change my life. And I got a lot of stuff that people don't have getting out of prison. And I'm just blessed that I could get my wife with me because, you know, she just got out of prison too. So for us both to be here, and it's pretty much not taking things for granted. Appreciating where we're at. We realize that I have the most set up, both of us, for our marriage to go right, for the fights to go right, to be successful as a person and come out of prison and defy the odds and not go back. Like, I have that all set up for me now, you know, and a lot of people pray for just one of those things. And now that I have all my blessings at one time at the right moment, I can't take that for granted. I have to appreciate it and keep working hard, because that's what got me here, is still working hard, you know. So that's what I hold on to. And I just feel like the days are not going to be easy some days, but if you just keep going, you know, I know the storm ends eventually, and you'll have everything you're supposed to at the right time.
Okay, so we're at Clanton's, and I want to give a shout out to the Clantons and the owner of Clanton's. Man, they've been around there all the years I was up there rodeoing and everything, and I kind of told him a little bit about Austin's story, and man, you know, you'd think being rural Oklahoma and this fine-looking feller walks in to Cowboy USA. I mean, the home of Clem McSpadden and real Rogers Days rodeos, and you know, and it's crazy. Like, he's like, hey man, anything I think it's great. He's had some people work there in his restaurant and giving them second chances. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing. Like, you would think that little bitty place would be like turning their head, and here he even has helped some people get a second chance. So we ate there. So shout out to the Clantons and everybody up there in Benito, Oklahoma. We appreciate you. You're at Wings of Freedom. You're and once you went through your orientation, I handed you the keys.
Yeah.
And you're in front of your apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not married yet, right? That's the night
mm-hmm.
after.
Mm-hmm.
What did it when you walked in? Tell me about that.
I mean,
For the people that helped, from my mom to Nakia to like all the different people, Pastor Dixie, the Wings of Freedom, everybody that helped in some way, money, product. I mean, what did it feel like? I guess just the way to say it is that anybody gave a damn.
Right. No, I mean, well, it felt like I just got really emotional, you know what I mean? Because I've never had that in my life. Like every situation I've ever been in, homeless, scared, hurt, afraid, crying, depressed, I've always prayed, man, can someone just help me get started? You know what I mean? Can I just get that traction so I can, because I know I'm destined for greatness. I know I have every tool it takes to be successful in life. And so that moment really solidified everything, as in like God just answered my prayers. You know what I mean? He just saved my life for real. Like I got a chance to really be successful now, and this is all I needed. And now that it's handed to me, I can't make no excuse for it. And I was so grateful. Me and my wife both just so grateful and so humbled in that moment, because I've really been just needing that for my entire life, and it's the first time it's ever happened to me. So.
Yeah, it choked me up. I'm getting choked up now thinking about it, because you were like, tears coming.
Yeah, it's real, man.
It's
life changing.
It is.
You saved my life. Like people, I'm not just saved my life. I saved my life. Like I could be dead right now. You know what I mean? I could be in a bad spot.
So
right
what if all this didn't happen? All the people, Fighters Chance Foundation, Wings of Freedom. Where's Austin 27 days later if this didn't happen?
Man, you know, I don't know. I couldn't even explain it, because me and my wife, we're going to get married, but it's just, everything just seemed like I knew this is what I wanted, but I didn't know how it was going to happen. And then, like I said, everything happened out of nowhere, unexpected, but exactly how it's supposed to. So I really can't answer that question, because I don't know. Maybe got in trouble already. Maybe just not even get in trouble, just not having a place to go with my wife, trying to get married, trying to figure it out on my own.
You wouldn't have got married.
Yeah.
Because I know who spotted you the money for your marriage.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
No,
not to be
really,
proud on the back,
no,
but like, I'm not saying that everybody deserves or is going to take and do good things when people help them. Because you know, on the street, a lot of people think 1%ers are bad people, but I think you could be a 1%er. You could be the guy that comes out of prison and does it.
And that's all I want to be.
And so, you know, and I just remember, you know, for a supposed tough guy, when it comes to things of God or things of my daughter, you know, and if you really want, in my opinion, you really want to make your life better, and take your eyes off of the stress. Like you don't even know, like the last few years of my life, some of the worst adversities going on. But when I was stressing about you, I forgot about me.
Mm-hmm.
There's power in that. And then I knew this was going to be a good thing. I mean, and I have faith in you, and I hope you do all the right things. But it was important enough that I took my daughter with me the whole journey, because I wanted her to see, and I've done that with her since she was little. She's 10. I wanted her to see the guy walking out of prison.
Right.
I want her to see what nothing is.
Right.
I want her to be grateful, and maybe she'll grow up and bless people, but also to appreciate the life she has.
Right, for sure.
You know? And so she's back there with your wife. They're back there right now, cutting up, acting silly, you know? And, you know, you'd never know that she's an ex-convict, that she's had, you know, troubles keeping her kids, that she's had dependency problems, and they're back there coloring and drawing and cracking up, you know? Like, no one came here right now other than looking at you and maybe me with tats.
Right.
They would never know who we are, right?
Yeah.
And so I think my advice to people are, man, wherever you're at, you can be something to somebody else.
For sure.
And that's why we're going to make these videos. That's why, you know, I hope that the more you get on your feet, that you will, what they call, pay it forward.
For sure.
You know, and help people. But also, I think there's going to be people that watch this, or that you meet, that they're going to listen to you. Because one thing I never do, I never say, oh, I know what it's like to be in prison.
Right.
I know what it's like to be addicted. That's not me.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start talking to youth and going through the Fighters Chance Foundation program, and we start talking to young, they're going to listen to you, because you've been there.
For sure.
And so when the guy, let's say the next person comes in the program, or Pastor Dixie starts using you, or I start, and they're like kind of trying to talk fast, or they're trying to run game, you're going to see it.
No, for sure. Yeah, because Real recognize real and fake get exposed. You hear me?
Yeah. So how they gonna be like, oh, you don't understand, bro? And
Yeah,
be
well,
like,
see, what's understood doesn't got to be explained. You know what I mean? And with me, anything that I speak on is from experience. So if I've never thrown a jab, I'm not going to tell you how to throw a jab.
Right.
If I've never been through this situation in life, I'm not going to tell you how to get over that situation because I've never been through it. But I've just had so many experiences that I feel like I want to change people's life just by the way I live mine. Because just like your daughter can see what it's like, I had to go through that, but that means that someone else doesn't because they can see. You know what I mean? They don't have to go through it. They can just learn from my mistakes.
it's the difference between wisdom and knowledge.
Right, for sure.
So we go to the church, Pastor Dixie's church, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we got the team there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
WCF.
Yeah,
like a lot of the fighters are there.
everyone's
What
crazy.
that? Because I didn't tell you that. What did it feel to see a whole pew filled up with people you hadn't even met yet?
Well, I just feel like I'm at the place I'm supposed to be because that's a team right there. That already showed me right off the rip that these people have my family. That are like my family for real. They got my back. They're here for me right now. You didn't see no
And there was
nothing.
some of them there kind of getting antsy in the seats, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they wasn't used to church.
Yeah, bro.
They, it's kind of moving around and not comfortable. And I don't think you and your wife were comfortable really in the church. Like,
Well, it's not just because it was a church. It's because I just got out and being around everything so fast. Like I'm not used to that. So it's part of getting out. But yeah, I don't think anyone was expecting how that night went.
And so you guys. So let me ask you this. So, you believe in God?
Yes, for sure.
Would you say that before Pastor Dixie went through this Romans 10, 9, 10, 11, and 12 with you, the prayer of salvation, were you a Christian? Did you believe in Jesus before church?
Well, see, that's why I agree with Pastor Dixie is I've never had a religion. I just had a connection with God. So my whole life, I really had a connection with God. I just, that's why when I come to your gym or go to his church that you guys relate, like you relate to a lot of fighting styles I already believed in that other people don't. You know what I mean? Just, he's real. He said he has a connection with God. That's it. And that's how I feel. I've always had a connection with God. So through my trials and tribulations, I've never really went to church or studied this. I just had my connection with God, and now like I said, he's just put me in the right place at the right time with the right people. And it's just working out the way it's supposed to.
So if somebody if they don't know, because I'm really believe in promoting. When I believe in something, I believe in it.
For
so
sure.
what's something, if somebody's on the outside and they're like, oh, Pastor Dixie, like what sticks out to you about Pastor Dixie?
Just that he's real all the way around, his generosity, and that he's giving back. He's helping people, like he says, a hand up, not a hand out, but he's genuinely helping people change their life. It's not just like do this program, get gone. No, do this program, you stay here is forever, like you're safe. I'm here to really help you. Some people that want to help people and people that really want to help people, he's being really real about it. He's being a man of his word with anything he says, and he's doing it in the way where he doesn't expect anything out of people, as in like, you're going to owe me this favor, you're going to come to church every day. He's like, no, I'm doing this because I'm helping you change your life.
So he does set expectations.
I mean, yeah, he wants you to, work you don't want to help somebody that's not going to help themselves, of course. But Pastor Dixie is giving people free choice. He's putting them in a position that they've been wanting to be in or never thought they could be in, and he's giving them free choice like, hey, do what's right, work the program, I'm going to help you, or keep messing up, but take this for granted and then it'll go away. But he's not giving up on people. He's letting people learn that you can make mistakes and learn how to get through the mistakes, or learn how to be in a marriage and how to do things the right way, because there's always the right way. In anything you do, you can always do it the right way, and that's what he's really saving my life.
Do you think that you would be as submissive to him and as game as you are and behind him as much if he didn't have the story he has, if he hadn't done time?
I mean,
do you think that it actually helped you to believe in him since he's been where you've been and longer?
I mean, in a way, yes, but at the end of the day, I just look at people's character. How they look at in your eyes when you talk to them, what they tell you, how they follow through with what they tell you. Like, really, his character is a genuine, real person that I don't trust a lot of people, but just by what he's already done for me and my wife and everything, I trust him. I do, and it's hard for me to say that, but just like I trust you as my coach, I trust certain individuals in my life that I put in the work to get where I am now, and I feel like y'all are gonna see me through to the top, to where I'm gonna reach all my goals and live out all my dreams because I've went so hard for them. So now I'm at the right place at the right time with the right people, with the right experiences.
So, not to end on a bad note, but let's say that if it didn't go right, what happens to you? What happens if you was to go mess up and make that choice? You just say, screw it. What happens to you? Where do you go and for how long? I mean, what's the deal? What's the repercussions of that?
I mean, really, I'm just so focused in that there's not going to be a moment. But if that moment happened, I wouldn't be alive. My life's on the line. If I make a right when I'm supposed to go left, I'm dead. I'm not gonna.
If they sent you back,
they're not
how
gonna
long
send me
would?
back. I'm not gonna make. I'm gonna. That's what I'm saying. I'm never going back. Even if they try to get me, I'm not going back to prison. So I gotta live every day like my life depends on it. You know what I mean? Because I want this life, and I really want that. There's a difference between someone saying they want something and knowing what you really want. When you know, like how they say, if you want something as bad as you want to breathe, like when you really find something in your life, and you realize what want really is. Like I want my marriage. I want my wife. I want to be a champion. But that want is that I'm gonna be. You know what I mean? That want when you really want something. And so that's what it is. I'm either gonna make it or I'm gonna die. And there's nothing.
So in the 27 days you've been married, and a lot of that's under the guidance. Like I try to stay out of that part. I let Pastor Dixie and that program do their deal because I got enough to be on your ass about all the time, and I don't want you thinking, man, every time he calls, he's on my ass. But so 27 days from what you've learned with Pastor Dixie and what you've seen, 27 days of marriage. What's a piece of marriage advice or two that you can give somebody, not because you both were into Tucson, but what's something you're like, man, I had no idea, or like, man, this has got to happen to stay married, whether you've been married a day, 27 days, or 27 years. What's something you've learned that you've had to either compromise, learn, do, that you had no idea till you got in?
Well, I know that a happy wife equals a happy life, and I know like hope for sure now. You hear me? So really, it's like.
So that's just not a Hallmark card.
It's no, never. And I learned from experience. No, but really, it's like when you're in a relationship with somebody, or you're younger in a relationship, and you're just boyfriend or girlfriend, like you can just break up or things don't go right. Now, marriage means she really dedicated her life to me, and I dedicated my life to her. So me as a man, I just feel like. It just gets real, and you know that you got to take care of this woman. You got to provide for her and be a man to her and follow through with everything you tell her. So you got to protect her, you got to cook for her, you got to love her, you got to, like, it's real though. I can't just be like, oh, we're breaking up, it didn't work out. No, like this is forever till the grave, because she's not divorcing me and I'm not divorcing her. You hear me? But one thing is, happy wife, happy life, for real. And if that's real.
So and John and I, you know, he's like my kid, my brother, but he's also. You know, the guy behind the camera and all the high tech stuff, but he was like straight up, and he can talk from behind the camera, whatever. But he's like, man, how the hell is that supposed to work? Like he's like, I just don't. This is the dumbest thing I ever heard. He's like, they haven't even seen each other, talked to like since high school. He's like, and like he didn't even come to church. He's like, Coach, I don't want to be a part of that part because I just don't understand what's gonna happen. Like he's very analytical. He's like. And I said, well, I think it's crazy. I think it's baboon on drugs crazy. Like it's like monkeys from the trees crazy. But I said, the one thing I know about people with dependencies, because I had to find, like you said earlier, I just like, okay, I got to find something good in this because this is crazy. Both have been institutionalized, prior addict, messed around with drugs and coming out. I had to change the whole thing at Wings of Freedom, which, man, I can't. You know, they just flipped the script, turned the pages, got new paperwork. Okay, well, now we're going to have a wife in there. And Pastor Dixie, though, he said before and I didn't. Pastor Dixie's like, they have to be married to be in my program. I will not let people live together. Okay, well, he's like, and you were like, let's go to the courthouse, get married. And he's like, nope, they're going to get married in my church with a real pastor, which is huge. That's cool.
Right.
He just changed the whole thing around. But then, and John's like, people do everything right, it doesn't work. Like how? I was like, well, I'll just say this. Here's the good I found in it. He's not going to be sitting in this apartment by himself at 11 o'clock at night looking for something to do because that's when a lot of people make the wrong decisions.
Right.
And so, and even the Bible says that, you know, the idle time is the devil's time. Most people, when they get back on bad habits, so they're like, you know, but I said, so I explained to John, explained to my own self over and over, like, look, now they got each other. They can be content. Like he's not. Because, I mean, it almost be like you were doing time, but in an apartment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really.
So I saw the good in it, but 27 days.
Yeah, no regrets. Happy. I'm ready. This is the love of my life, and I know that I'm dedicated to going to the grave with her. Yeah, I don't want nobody else. I'm absolutely in love with her, and no matter what comes at hand, I'm willing to do whatever, fight for it, whatever we gotta go through. I'm willing to go through it for her, and I don't regret marrying her a day in my life. For real.
Well, I think it's awesome. We're gonna come back and do this again.
Okay.
And one of the reasons I just wanted to throw this out there is, you know, you're a success story with all kinds of variables that aren't supposed to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like people say oil and water don't mix. Well, if you shake it hard enough, you know what I'm saying? Like, it could happen. So, but we're 27 days in. You know, I've tried my best. I personally, that's why I formed a fighter's chance. I don't have the money to, you know, I've got to be a great dad every day. You know, I got love for you, but that's my daughter over there.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've done it wrong for a long time. So if you're seeing this, right, please like, please share, please comment. And if you're a business that you want to take this journey with us, or you're a company, or you're an individual, man, please reach out. FightersChance.org. Even help Wings of Freedom. Look up Wings of Freedom. If you want to donate to both, man, awesome. We can't do it on our own. We can only do it if you help. So if you can relate to Austin's story, anything helps. Just go to FightersChance.org. If you like this video, you want to see more content like this. Jon and I, we've got a ton of success stories coming, positive outcomes, people whose lives have changed. He's already committed. We're going to get Pastor Dixie on here, and he's going to talk about his life. He is like me on steroids. Like, this guy's 20 years in. He's buying whole hotels and remodeling them. He's got a whole block, like a block, right? A whole city block of nothing but housing for guys like Austin. And so I'm learning from him, and we're going to get him here and hear his story. And I just appreciate everybody that's already helped so far in Austin's walk. And man, we want to reach more people, but we want you to be a part. We're going to fight regionally first, and then we're coming. We're going to be on TV, and we'll keep you posted. Austin Conrad, he's on Facebook. Craig Blacklock, I'm on Facebook. There's a Fighter's Chance on Facebook underneath my profile. But man, like us, share us, comment, and get behind us, and let's do great things. Appreciate you. Another episode of The Truth Behind the Smoke.